I think.
Hello, Roger.
Hello. Hello. I hope you can hear me. Hello.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we can't keep waiting. I think we will be live. We are live on Facebook. There are a lot of people who will also join us on Facebook. I want to welcome all of you, whether you are here or on Facebook. We are going to have a nice time today. We have experts who are going to help us today. It's all about examination excellence. And Forget is organizing this program, Passcode 2021. We do it every year. The essence is to help you understand and know some of the petty errors that people who goes into examination make. Sometimes it's not because they don't know, it's not because they cannot write, but little mistakes end up costing us so much. So we have teachers, we have examiners who are going to help us and to tell us some of these mistakes so that we can watch out for them when we go into our examination. So I want you to take your pen, paper, write down any question you want. During the presentation, you can put down those questions. We will give time for all students to ask questions. Whilst the presentation is going on, you can still also be typing and sending messages. And those of you on Facebook can also keep your messages coming. We will attend to everybody and make sure that everybody's question is attended to. God richly bless you for coming. Before I hand over to our experts, or I will introduce them and hand over to them, let us just say a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We invite your presence to take absolute control. We pray that you will give us understanding and help us in everything we are here to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so to help us with our presentation today, I have on board Dr. Ban, who is from Equipment Senior High School. He is a biology teacher and he has been teaching for long. He knows the mistakes that students make, and he's going to educate us. He will be taking us science and maths today, and then questions, possible questions, and how you can go about it, and also little errors that students make when they are answering questions. We also have in the house Mr. Daniel Bunsu Efriye, who was with us last week, Saturday. His presentation was great, and I believe those of you who were with us, you enjoy. He is an expert in English language and literature. He has been teaching for years, and today he's going to help you. Like the data and statistics shows, English language and literature, the grade and the score is the lowest. And students seems not to be doing well in these subjects. And I believe today is going to help us to know what actually goes wrong. Chief examiners reports come out every year, but the truth is that you who is going to the WASI would not have the opportunity to correct the mistakes after the chief examiner report has come out. So it's a good opportunity for those of us who are going to write our final exam to take part and listen and hear some of these errors and things we should watch out for when we go into the examination. I also have the owner who is a PRO of Forget. He's around. He has taught in the senior high school. He's good when it comes to social studies and other issues surrounding examination. So I just want you to relax, have your pen and papers ready, and as we go through this discussion for today. Now we are going to have all the core subjects covered: English, science, maths, and social studies. And to begin with, we are going to have a presentation from our own teacher and lecturer, take us through the English. English and Literature, Mr. Daniel Bonson. I will hand over to him and then he can take over from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Fechi. I'm very much excited to be called upon to help our students know the in and out as far as the writing of English language and then literature is concerned. I'll begin with the English language paper. You know, the English language paper has been divided into 3 main parts. We have paper 1, that is the objective test, what you call the multiple choice questions. Now, these are 80 questions, but these have been divided into 5 parts. So you have section A, legs and structure, you have section B, C, D, and then the D parts. So to make it very simple for our students, you have question 1 to 10, that is 1 segment. Question 11 to 20, that is another segment. Question 21 to 30, that is another segment. 31 to 40, another segment. And then 41 to 50, another segment. Then we have 51 to 80, that falls under core literature. Now, this core literature is also been divided into 3 main parts. That is drama, prose, and then poetry. All this combined will make 1 paper. Then there is paper 2. That comprises of essay, comprehension, and then summary. Now with essay, you are given 5 questions and you are supposed to answer just 1 for 50 marks. Then there is a question on comprehension. Then there is a question on summary. Now we have paper 3. That is the oral test, what you call the listening and the comprehension test. That is where an oral test is played and you listen and then you answer the questions. This comes with 60 multiple choice questions. So you listen attentively and then you answer these questions. So in all, English language comes in paper 1, paper 2, and then paper 3. Students should be aware of this. Now, you would have to ask yourself, why are students performing poorly as far as the English language is concerned? Over the years, what we have realized is that the basic problem has got to do with students who don't like reading. I've always told my students that to pass English language, there are 3 things you have to do. First, you have to read. Second, you have to read. Third, you have to read. This will tell you that reading is very, 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 very important. Reading takes us to where we have not been before. You read a text and it takes you to where the content is talking about. So 1, students don't like reading. Now, tied closely to that is students have limited test scope. Now, because you have not been reading, your test scope is very limited. And when your test scope is very limited, you have little vocabulary to write with. Because it is through reading that we are able to acquire most of the vocabulary that we use. So once you are not reading, your test scope is limited. And then you have few vocabulary to write with. It only means that you cannot write and write very well. Quite apart from that is the poor orthography and inappropriate use of the language. You know, the way we hear words being pronounced, sometimes very different from how the words are written. So when the students hear these words, they don't make the attempt to look up for these words in the dictionaries to know how they are written. Words like cough, kennel, lieutenant, the way you hear them being pronounced is totally different from the way they are written. So it is only by reading that you are able to see how these words are written, their meaning, and how you use them in your writing. But as I've said already, our students are not ready to read, so they lose sight of all this. So when they get to the exam hall and they are supposed to write an essay, they find it very difficult to write a very good essay. That always starting, they have not been reading, so they are not able to write anything meaningful for the full marks. Remember, the English language paper, the highest mark is allotted to essay writing. That is 50 marks. So imagine you write something very scanty and not make any mark over there. You are on your way to failure already. So I would say, students, that is poor orthography and inappropriate use of the language. Then one other problem tied closely to what I've just said is the inability to write full-length essays. Now, in the WASI examination, you are supposed to write at least 450 words. 450 words. So when you take your answer booklet, you count the lines. If you write, let's say, 8 words per line, 8 by, I think, 30 thereabout will give you 400 and something. So if you write less than 10, 15, 20 lines, remember you have not written a full-length essay. And your inability to write a full-length essay will deny you the high marks that you deserve to pass with. So inability to write full-length essays. Now, students have not been reading, so they find it very, very, very difficult to locate answers in both summary and comprehension tests. Now, comprehension simply means to understand. So if you read a passage and you are not able to make the head and tail of that, it only means that, one, you don't understand the text. And once you don't understand the text, it only means that questions that are set based on this question will be very difficult for you to answer. Same applies to summary. In summary, you are given a very long test. In fact, summary tests are even longer than comprehension tests. And you are given the chance to summarize that lengthy test in, say, 5 or 6 sentences. So these sentences must be a summary of the full-length essay. Now, here is the case you read and you did not understand this. How are you going to answer the questions? So you realize that of all the things that I've said, reading becomes a very core component, very important. In fact, the fundamental thing is you need to be reading. You need to be reading. In fact, I told my students that one of the greatest lies some of our teachers told us was that in a comprehension exam, the first thing you have to do is to read the questions before you read the passage. It is very disheartening for students to be taken through that, because once you read the questions before you read the passage, you are not going to read for understanding, but what you are going to do is that you are going to fish for answers. Now, you need to understand the text first, because comprehension comes with the different types of questions. We have direct reference questions, we have inferential questions, we have vocabulary questions, we have appreciative questions. All this put together in one comprehension test. So if you go reading the questions before the passage, which of these answers are you going to fish for just by reading the passage? first you need to read for understanding. Now, the last point that I will talk about as far as the performance of students is concerned is questions on grammatical names and functions. Now, in fact, this type of question remains the most, should I say, the most problematic area for students. In fact, you mark about 10 scripts, 15 scripts, 20 scripts, and it's about 1-2 people making a half or 1 mark over there. Questions, you read through the chief examiner's report and they keep repeating that this particular type of question is becoming very, very, very difficult for students to answer. So, doctor, I've been able to enumerate about 6 reasons as to why the English language is becoming a problem. But basic to all of these is what I refer to as what? The inability of students, or not even inability, but student dislike for reading. Now, I want to look at another thing. If these are the problems, then what are teachers supposed to do? Teachers are the guide of these students in the classroom. So what are teachers supposed to do? We know students are supposed to do a lot, but I would like to look at what teachers are supposed to do first. I think that the reading culture must be inculcated in the students so as to broaden their test scope and vocabulary acquisition. Without reading, you are not cut for English language. You just have to be reading, reading, and reading. So this culture of having libraries in our schools, encouraging our students to read, forming reading clubs in our schools. Let's come together, let's read a text, let's try to discuss it. You know, it will shape up that interest in students to read, because it's in only reading that our horizon will be broadened. Then I also want to look at this. Students should be taught the mechanics of writing. Some students can write a full-length essay with just a full stop. Those who also come up with punctuations do it haphazardly. Where they are supposed to put full stop, they are putting commas over there. Where they are supposed to put commas, they are putting full stops over there. Absurd use of the apostrophe and all that. We need to teach them the mechanics of writing, where to capitalize and when not to capitalize. You know, we have been taught that proper nouns comes with capitalization, then common nouns are not capitalized unless they are beginning sentences. All this must be taught. Sentence structure, all this must be taught by teachers. Then another point that I want to look at is there should be enough exercises on essay, grammar, comprehension. Being a teacher myself, one of the major problems we have is the number of students that we teach. So sometimes it's very difficult for teachers to give exercises on essay, because we are looking at a workload. When am I going to finish marking this? But it's incumbent upon teachers to teach these students how to write very good essays. Very good essays. That can be done in phases. Now, you can decide to teach only introduction. You can decide to teach only conclusion. You can even pick a point, develop it into a paragraph. Do it step by step. You're not saying that they should write full-length essays for you to be marking every day. No, you cannot do that. Very, 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 very tedious for you to do that. But you segment the lesson in such a way that it becomes very easy for you to monitor your students as they progress. This is very, very, very dear to my heart. In fact, students are not able to write essays because we have just not been helping them. So I am calling on teachers to be giving more essay exercises to their students comprehension, as well as summary. Summary, you begin by teaching the students what a sentence is, so that if the question demands that students should write or should summarize the text in 3 sentences, they wouldn't be writing phrases. They wouldn't be writing dependent clauses that are incomplete in themselves as sentences. This wouldn't earn them the much needed marks. Then again, grammar, that is the basic thing that the students are going to write with. So grammar should be taught. Our students should be taught grammar very well, so that they'll be able to differentiate between grammatical terms and literary devices or figures of speech. It's very important. It's very important. Then I would like also teachers should organize orientation programs for their students on what the English language paper contains and what the components are. In fact, I started by letting students in on what the English language paper contains. I have been to schools, I've been to classes to teach, and candidates don't know what the English paper contains. I have a lesson that I have named Knowing the English Language Paper. So I let them know that even if you take the objective test, question 1 to 10, it's on antonyms. 11 to 20, it's headed, it's titled Best Complete. So we have the preamble from the alternative letter A to D. Choose the best, that's Best Complete. So I call it Best Complete. And you should let the students know the topics from which these questions are picked from. Are they from question tags? Are they from prepositions? Are they from adverbs? Are they from subject of agreement, that is concord? They should know all that. Part C, that is question 21 to 30. Let the students know that this talks about synonyms, words, and then words that are nearest in meaning, that's synonyms. Let them know that 31 to 40, it's about interpretation. So the test is given, then the students are supposed to identify the interpretation that is given to the test. Then the 41 to 50, it's about 41 to 50, it's about register, the use of the appropriate terminology or appropriate word. Let them know all that. Question 51 to question 80, it's about literature. The first part, it's about prose. So this time, those in Form 3, and then they are reading, those in Form 3 now, they are reading No Sweetness Here. So 10 questions will be asked. Then it comes to grammar, that is Anansi in the Land of Idiots. We have 10 questions. Then the last bit, that is 71 to 80. We have questions on poetry. And with questions on poetry, there are 5 poems. The Lost Friends, Lest We Should Be the Last, Silver Wedding, Makola, The Hunters, I need a whose poem, I've forgotten the title. 2 questions from these 5 poems, making it 10. So as a student, and you're entering the examination hall, you should know what this paper contains. You should know what each question comes with, so that you'll be able to write and pass. Now, Doctor, the last bit on this English language presentation will be what students should do to pass. They are going to write. So what are they supposed to do? Every student who is readying up himself for this examination should read, and read. I'll repeat that. I'm saying that any student who is readying up himself for this upcoming examination that's going to be conducted by the West African Examination Council, WAEC, that person must read, and read. So students should be encouraged to read good materials extensively so as to improve their language use and vocabulary. It is by that means that they can write very well. They need to write, they need to read so that they can improve their language use and vocabulary. Now, I would encourage students to approach their teachers. English language is not just like any other subject. It's very difficult. But I'm saying that with the help of the teachers, you realize that English language is not difficult at all. That myth needs to be cured. Let us approach our teachers so that whatever we find difficult, these teachers will help us understand them easily. But our failure to approach them will make this course very, very difficult for us. Let's try to approach them. Students must practice with old questions. That they have to solve past questions. It is by solving these past questions that will let you know what the examiners demand of you. But you sit down, not get closer to your teachers, not trying to lay your hands on past questions to know. Now, we know that this examination follows a trend. We know that this exam follows a trend. For example, when you pick the English language essay paper, we know that question number 1, essay, we have 5 questions. Until WAEC changes the trend, question 1 is always on letter writing, that is informal letter. Question 3 is always about formal letter. Question 5 is always about story writing. Question 2 is that article or a report. Question 4 is about debate or articles. So these are the dynamics. So as you enter the examination, you should practice to know the demands of these questions. So you should be so that you are able to answer them. You don't sit down not paying attention to these things, only to be faced with these questions as if you have been ambushed. But at least having written examination from Form 1 to Form 3, you shouldn't feel ambushed in the exam hall. If you have practiced enough, examination hall will even look like a practice ground for you. You see things and then you wouldn't panic. You will be able to do that and do it very well. So I would like to also say that students should organize their study space.
Okay.
They are going to write. They know what lies ahead of them. So they should organize their study space. What I mean by organizing their study space is by coming up with their private timetable, scheduling when to study, when to have a break, when to have leisure. In fact, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I believe in that, but I'm saying that much attention should be given to their timetable. And the last one that I will talk about, I am a Christian, so from the Christian perspective, I believe in prayer. I believe in prayer. I believe in the 3 P's actually: planning, preparation, prayer. I believe that in all things, you need that supreme being to guide you in all that you do. So I would say the last point that I would tell my students to always have on the back of their mind is that prayer is everything. Thank you very much, Dr. Aveji.
Thank you so much. You have given me a doctor title.
You deserve it, boss. You deserve it.
Doctor is here. Dr. Man is around.
Doctor.
All right. All right. God richly bless you. I think I wish we could all clap for Mr. Bonso for a wonderful presentation. In fact, I'm truly happy. I don't know what to say. I am so happy when you are emphasizing on the reading aspect when it comes to English. I don't know, but I keep telling people, especially my ambassadors, that you have to read. I always make sure that they read at least a book in a month. But you know the challenge, the Form 3s are telling me they have to prepare, and therefore they are exempting themselves from the reading program, which Progress is organizing for them. I'm happy you are telling them that they need to read so that they can what? They can pass their English subject. But before I allowed any question, I want to ask you, Mr. Bonso, you spoke about grammar. When it comes to the issue of grammar, one of the things identified by the chief examiner's report is shorthands and PG, student using shorthand and PG. I don't know, what do you think they should do? Because social media is creating much of this problem now. What do you think can be done to help our students to desist from this? Because every year it looks like it's becoming a major problem in the English paper.
But we should be even looking at where this is coming from. The use of this mobile phones in text messaging. In fact, I encourage my students, if you write to me, I try to write in full. If you text me, I try to answer in full, to let you know that even the English teacher is not even interested in writing in shorthand. In fact, you pick your scripts and it's written as you are. R is written as R. In fact, it's a problem. And certain expressions that we have heard over time, we think that once we've heard people using them, it's correct. But please, these expressions, we try to let our students know that they're wrong. You need not to use them. You know, in our usual conversations, when we make mistakes, nobody is marking that for us. But once you write it in an examination hall, it is going to be assessed by an examiner. And once it is not right, it is not right. In fact, I encourage my students to write even text messages in full.
Thank you.
I don't understand why you should write is as IX when S is also two letters, IS. So why exchange the S for X?
I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of, I don't know whether I should call it disease or sickness. But
in fact, we need to cure that. We need to cure that.
Seriously, thank you so much. Students, we are here. I encourage you, put down your questions. Because of time, I really will want the second person to also give us his presentation. Then we can take the questions from you, and then they can handle it side by side. So Dr. Ban, if you are ready, I will quickly move to you. We are online and we don't have much time. People are crying for data. So quickly, I will invite you to join us. If you are ready, you take us for science and mathematics. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please, I hope you can all hear me.
Sure, we can hear you.
Okay. So I will start with science. So my dear students, the science paper is written on a particular day, and it's made up of paper 1, 2, and 3. So the paper 1 and 2 is what we normally call it as the first paper. Then paper 3 is the practical paper. So you should know that all these papers will be written on the same day. You not do the paper 1 and 2, and later another day you come and do the paper 3. And the mode of the questions are different. though you'll be learning for simultaneously in connection to that of the paper 3, which is the practicals. So I'll take you through the papers. The paper 1 is the objective test, which has 50 questions. Paper 2 is what is called the written or the essay part, which has 6 questions, where students will be required to answer 4 out of the 6. So when you receive the paper, you have both the paper 1 and paper 2. Students should not rush in reading through the questions. You should read instructions and know what the paper is telling you to do. So the paper 2, you start with the paper 2 first, which has 6 questions, and you'll be required to answer 4. And you are going to spend 1 hour, 30 minutes for only the paper 2, at which when the time is up, it will be taken from you, and the paper 1 will be administered to the students. So there won't be any break. So students should take note. So the paper 2, which is 1 hour, 30 minutes, and you are to answer 4 questions. If you use your calculator, it should tell you that you have a maximum of 22 minutes for each question. So if you are answering a question and you are using more than 22 minutes on that particular question, it means you cannot answer all the 4 questions required from you. So as during the examination, students don't go in with their watches, but there's always a clock to guide you. So students should pay attention to time. So with the same written, you have 6 questions which you have to answer 4. Let me tell students that it is not mandatory that you should answer only 4. You can answer more than 4. You can answer more than 4. And I repeat, you can answer more than 4. But the sad thing here is that you shouldn't answer less than 4. Why am I saying this? You are asked to answer 4. So all the things that you've answered will be marked, and the best 4 will be taken. So for instance, if you answer 5 out of the 6, all the 5 answers will be marked. No examiner, I repeat, no examiner will punish you for answering more than the 4. The examiner is to mark all the answered scripts and pick the best 4. So if you answer than the 4, you have no case. What you've answered is what will be used to judge you. But if you answer 4 or more, your best 4 will be chosen, and that will be used to judge you. When you come to the paper 1, the paper 1 is the objective test, multiple choice, which is 50 questions, and you are to spend 1 hour, which should tell you that on each question, you are to spend maximum of 1 minute. Each question you have to spend maximum of 1 minute. So students will waste time on a particular question, and you see that the examiner or invigilators will say stop work. Then they will begin just to shade anything. They will just fill in the gap. Please, if you are answering the objective test and question 1 is difficult for you, move on to the next. Go through all the objective tests and answer the one that you can answer within a short period of time. And I'll come to the paper 3. So there will be a break After the paper 1 and 2, students will be given few rests before they will come and take the paper 3, which is the practical paper. The practical paper also has 4 areas. We have the biology, the physics, chemistry, and agriculture. And you spend 2 hours on this paper for 60 marks. So that should tell you that you have a maximum of 15 minutes each on biology. You have 15 minutes on physics, 15 minutes on chemistry, and 15 minutes on agriculture. And students will also note that when it comes to integrated science practical, there will always be graph. There will always be graph work. People will say, I'm not a science student, I don't like graph. Please, there will always be at choosing skill and how to plot. Get closer to your teachers. Let them teach you. And the biology, chemistry, and agriculture, that one is a general knowledge. Anything can come. But with the physics, mostly it is graph work, which you always get it easier. So in all, the paper 1 is 50 marks. The paper 2 is 80 marks, and paper 3 is 60 marks. So you have to do very well and make sure that you abide by time, because if you go against time, it means you cannot finish. You can't finish the question, which you have to answer. So as you go and you prepare for the exam, please, as you even study, guide yourself with time. Make sure that you are within time. And if you are answering question 1 and you can't answer, move to the next question. So, on the science, what I would say is that you should try your best and tackle each question. You see the marks there, maybe you'll be asked what is osmosis, and the mark there is 3 marks. Even to know that they will not determine the marking scheme. The marking scheme, students are not the one. Anything about osmosis, you have to write. And science is straightforward. You have to hit on the required words. So you don't have to go all round before. You have to go straight forward to the required words in science, and you be good. I'll quickly move to mathematics. Mathematics also has 2 tests, paper 1 and paper 2. In the morning, paper 1 will be written, and in the afternoon, in the morning, paper 2 will be taken, then paper 1 will be taken in the afternoon. So paper 2 has section A and B. Section A is 40 marks, and section B is 60 marks. So in all, 100 marks. And you have to spend 2.5 hours on this paper. When you take paper 2, it has section A and section B. So the section A has 5 questions, which it is compulsory. You have to answer all. Then section B has 8 questions, which you have to choose 5. My advice to students is that when you are answering mathematics questions, please don't deceive and go and start with section A. I will advise students to always start with section B, because section B, you have 8 questions where you have to choose 5. And make sure you select the best of the questions that you can answer. Select the best from the best. Normally, with the paper 2, section A, question 1 looks deceptive. It's very simple. Sometimes a standard form or fraction, which students will be in hurry to go answer, and it will take them all their time. So I advise students to always tackle section B, where you have to choose. So with that, you will choose the topic that you are prepared well on. And I repeat, in all, you have 13 questions. You have to answer 10, because the section A is compulsory, which is 5 questions, and section B is 5 questions. So making it 10. In all, it's 13 questions. Students, I advise you answer 10 or more. You answer 10 or more and not less than 10. You don't know the question that will fetch you the highest mark. So when you answer more than the 10, the examiners will pick the compulsory one, section A, which is the first 5. That one is compulsory. Then the 8 questions, let's say you answered 7. The examiner is going to mark all the 7 and record the mark and choose your best 5 from the 7 questions that you answered at section B. So students should take note. And the 2 hours you are going to spend on section A and B, that should tell you that for each question, you have to spend a maximum of 15 minutes. You have to spend a maximum of 15 minutes. So if you spend more than 15 minutes on a question, it means you can't finish all the 10 questions you have to answer. And I'll conclude by saying that students, as you go and prepare for the exam, you should note that at the end of this examination, the certificate will be awarded to you. It is you and you alone, your name that will be on the certificate, and not your friend. It is you and you alone, your name that will be on the certificate, and not your friend. I'm not saying having friends is bad, but this is not time to say my friend is doing this, so I'm also going to do that. As Mr. Bonsu Efriye said, you have to be focused. You have to plan. You have to get a personal timetable. So if your friend is going to play, you don't say, then let me also follow my friend. You should have plan and know you want to attain in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ban. In fact, before I allow the students to come in, one side of your presentation keep me wondering, where you said you can answer more than the number of questions you are asked to answer. I want you to explain that for me a bit. And then also let me ask, if there's a compulsory question, maybe section B, you have to answer 4 questions. And there's a compulsory question of question 1. And the person decided to leave the question 1 and answer the rest of the 5, because you are saying we can answer more than the number prescribed, and it's not a problem. I want you to clarify this one for me. Dr. Ban.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, yes. Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
You can answer more than the required given.
Dr. Ban, please, your network is breaking. Can you please position
You
yourself
can
and then
answer more
comment?
than the required instruction given. For instance, A questions which are compulsory, and section B, you have 8 questions which you have to choose 5 from it. So you cannot say that, okay, I can answer all the 8 questions in section B. Therefore, I will and choose 2 questions from the section A, which is compulsory, and add it to it, making 10. That's not what I mean. What I mean is that the compulsory, you are tied to answer them. You have no option there, but you have to answer them. So where you have option to choose, that is where you can choose to answer more. So as the examiners mark, they will first write question 1 to 5, which is compulsory, before they go and look for the other numbers which is well understood.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. In fact, I will allow the student
Yes.
to.
So if you can't jump a compulsory question and add where you choose to it, making that to be the total number.
Okay.
So students should take note.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ban, I want you to position yourself very well. Your network seems to be breaking. So kindly position yourself very well. There's a lot of questions coming to you, and I want you to help us very, very,
Okay.
very much. Thank you so much. So student, before we bring in Ona, I want us to you to bring in your questions for the English language and then the second presentation. If you have any question, I want you to quickly bring it. Just unmute yourself. After you finish talking, you mute yourself back. So just quickly be fast about it, and then we can go on. If you are there, let me see your hand. You raise your hand, and then you just, I'll call you. You ask the question quickly. Yes.
Okay, so I want to ask a question based on the English presentation that Mr. Daniel presented. On the aspect of reading, I want to ask that, what are some of the techniques that you need to employ in order for you to understand what you are reading? Because some say that when I really need to skim, some say you need to scan. So I want to ask Mr. Daniel Bonse Free that, what are some of the techniques that as a student, when you are reading, you need to employ so that you can be able to understand what you are reading very well?
Okay, Mr. Daniel.
Well, skimming, scanning, they are all good. You need to do that. But then we are limiting ourselves to the exam ahead of us. That is the comprehension test, where you are supposed to read within a certain time frame and then come up with answers based on the question that you have read. I've always told my students that when you get to the examination hall, as far as comprehension is concerned, first read the passage. Now, if you take the WASI paper, it says you are advised to use, I think, 25 minutes or so on the essay. So that's on the comprehension test. That should tell you that the time allotted for that is very limited. So yes, we are advised to spend 30 minutes on the comprehension test. So I advise my student to read for the first time. If I attend an examination under all the pressure and everything, you may not read to understand. Do the second reading of the test. Then you go to read the questions before reading the passage again. that will give you the chance to read the passage for about 3 times. I am saying that under this condition, if you are able to read the passage for 3 times, some of the answers will just be appearing to you as you read, because we have read for the first time, you understood it. Second time, before reading the questions, then going back to the passage again, you have your pencil. You realize that some of these questions are direct reference questions. We also call them the WH questions. Where did the fight take place? On which day did the man travel? You realize that these are questions that will just occur to when you read the passage and you understand. It is the inferential questions that are a bit, or the derivatives that are a bit difficult. You need to think through, because these ones, the questions are not directly stated in the text, but you need to infer that if this is this and this is that, then this would have been this and this would have been that. So I'm saying that reading, you need, as for reading for pleasure, you have your dictionary beside you. You read, you underline words that you don't understand. It is not advisable to be reading and every word that you meet you don't understand, you open up the dictionary to check. It does not encourage the fluency or the flow. But sometimes you just make a mark around them, or use a highlighter to highlight them. After reading, you go back, you check their meaning, and then you try to link it to what you understand. You'll get it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I believe other questions are from Merck. I can see your hand up. I don't. What I see is Fan Merck. I don't know the real name. So it's important. Just unmute yourself. Yasir, yes. I'll come to you, but let me take Fan Merck first, and then yes, please go ahead. Unmute yourself and then go ahead. All right. Go ahead. You that have your hands up, you are using iPhone. Okay, go ahead.
Please, I wanted to ask that according to Mr. Bam, he said when you're answering come-out question, the compulsory part, you can choose to answer the optional before the compulsory part. So, should in case you are answering the compulsory part, the optional part, then you were not able to answer all the 5. Maybe you answered 4. Then because of time factor, you went on to answer the compulsory. After answering the compulsory, the optional one, the one left, can you answer it after the compulsory question?
Sure.
Dr. Ban, if you are around, quickly take that one. Dr. Ban. All right, so take notes. Go ahead, Farmer. Ask your question so that we'll take order 2.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Hello, how you can hear me?
Your line is breaking, Dr. Ban.
Hello?
Yeah, hold on. Let's take a question, then you come back to you.
Hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but let me take a question. I'll come back to you. Yes, Farmer, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
All right, Yasira, ask your question.
Yeah, hello?
Yasira, ask your question.
Okay, so Dr. Ba,
Okay.
as you said, you can answer more than the required questions with the optional questions. With the optional questions, you can answer more than the required questions you are asked to answer. I want to ask if when you do that, you said when you answer more than you are required, the examiner will mark them and then take your best scores. Yes. So I want to know if after he had done that, would he penalize you? And if yes, what will be the punishment? Is it that he's going to deduct from what you scored or what? Or there'll be no punishment at all for that? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your question. Dr. Ban, if you're online, kindly take these two questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll take the first one. I'll start from the first one.
Yes.
Students should note that when you are answering questions, you don't have to, it is not compulsory for you to start from question 1. Students should take note. When you are answering examination questions, it is never compulsory that you should start from question 1. What you have to do is that each new question should be on a new sheet or a fresh.
Wow, we are having challenge with the network.
So you have to say that I'm leaving this page for compulsory question. No. If it is mathematics questions and you are answering question 13 is the best question you can answer, you have to start on the first page with question 13. Then you can go and continue with your question 2. You can go again and answer question 5. You go and answer question 11. Not necessarily in that order, like question 1, question 2, question 3. No.
Okay.
So you can answer the question which you are good at.
Okay. Okay. So
Then
quickly touch on the second one. Will you be penalized for answering more than if you you've answered more than you are required to? Will you be punished for that?
Hello?
Is there any punishment for that?
Hello?
Hello? All right, Mr. Free, can you please help us out?
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Ban.
In fact, there is no punishment for that. Same with English language. There is no punishment for that. That a candidate answered, let's say, essay questions. He answered 2 questions. What we do is that you mark the 2 and pick the best, but there is no punishment attached to that.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, iPhone, go ahead.
So it means what the examiners want from you is that you, at the end of it, or you answer the compulsory question.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do you have any other question? Please, anybody with a question quickly? Our time. Hello. Do you have Ona in the house? I will come back to the question session. Ona, if you are there, I want you to give us a little touch on social studies and general approach to examination, preparation before exam and during exam and stuff like that. Can you help us within some 5 minutes?
Thank you very much. But I like the 5 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I think what my senior colleagues has already done, they've touched on all the essential elements, which are, let me say, applicable to all the subjects. Okay, when you come to social studies, what is applicable? Most of the things, they are not different from what our colleagues have already shared. But just like we know, social studies is also a two-part paper, paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 has about has 50 questions for 50 minutes. Then we have the paper 2. The paper 2 is where I want to spend just a few attention over there. Then I will do some few things that will touch on all other subjects that you would like to answer, how to approach them. Paper 2 is divided into 3 sections. Questions that fall under the question 1, they are all on the environment. Then section 2 of the paper 2 is on governance, politics, and stability. That is where you talk about issues like constitution, rights and responsibility, and other stuff. Then the section 3 of paper 2 talks about social and economic development. Social and economic development. That is where you get questions like entrepreneurship or questions on business-related items, questions on productivity, among others. Now, in the paper 2, you are supposed to answer 4 out of the number of questions that are given you. And the 4 questions, you must answer at least a question from each of the sessions. So section 1 on environment, you answer 1 question from them. Paper 2, sorry, the section 2 on paper 2, the governance, politics, and stability, you answer at least 1 question over there. Then the 3rd session, you also answer a question over there. Social studies, I believe, is one of the papers that you can easily pass as a student. You can easily pass without any form of work struggle. Now, when you are tackling social studies questions, I want to jump and look at some few things that it would generalize, because I want to generalize it. Then I'll focus a bit on the social studies angle for us to see. So if you have your pen and paper, just write these things down. I believe they will help you. Like, I wanted it to be shared for you to see and write, but I think there is a problem with the sharing of the slides. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ona. We
Good.
can hear you.
Good. Now, when you are answering a question in terms of the subjectives or the section D or the paper 2 that we normally call it, there are some few things that you must take a note of. How do you tackle that particular question? So before you write, you must understand the language of the question. How are the questions answered, asked? When you come to social studies, there are certain key ways that are used in answering the question. So before I give you an example of a question for her to answer, I want you to pay attention to some of the languages that are used. For instance, in social studies, they can ask you to outline 5 benefits of study of social studies, or outline 5 benefits of environment. Okay, now the key word over there is outline. What is the examiner expecting from you with the word outline? The number 2, the examiner can also ask you to explain 5 elements of, or 5 sources of constitution. If the examiner says you should explain, what is the examiner expecting from you? Number 3, one of the common ones that they will use is what? Discuss. If we say discuss, what do we mean from you, or what do we need from you? Now let's take these 3 ones that I just mentioned: the outline, explain, and discuss. When we say outline, what we are trying to ask of you is to give us the essential element just in a sentence, or maximum 2. Okay, outline 4 effects of land degradation, or outline 4 effects of calamity on the environment. So if they say outline, then what they are expecting from you, let's say the effects of Galamsey on the environment, you can give an answer like what? Destruction of water bodies and aquatic life. So destruction of water bodies and aquatic life is enough for your answer. It's enough for your answer. And when you give that, you don't need to explain any further. You don't need to discuss. You don't need to give any further examples. If you give an example, it is a plus. But for you to utilize your time, know that what is being required of you, it is not for you to write an essay over there. However, when you are asked to explain, it means you must list the points, destruction of water bodies. Then you must explain the points. You must explain how does Galamsey destroy aquatic life, right? So the mining of the mining in the water bodies, among other stuff, it pollutes the water. So as it pollutes the water as it boils, it loses what? Its color. Now, certain chemicals are also introduced into the water, like mercury, among other stuff, which makes the water impure for consumption of aquatic lives to survive. So at the end of the day, as you explained these things, you are trying to let the examiner know that you understand what is being required of you. After that, you give an example. So when you are explaining, when you are asked to explain, you must list the points, you must explain it, and give an example. These three key elements are required for you to get the full marks. Most often, assuming the marks allocated to that particular, let's say, you are asked to explain 5, and the mark allocated to it is 20. It means that each of the 5 is carrying 4 marks. So the 4 marks, when you list the point, they can give you 1. Then the explanation will take like 2. Then the example will take 1. So when you just list without explaining, it means that 2 points that you must get over there, you lose it. So we must pay attention to it. Now, one other word that is closely related is discuss. There is a difference between explaining something and discussing the thing. When you are explaining, you are just giving the reasons. But when you are discussing, you are putting the things side by side. You are looking at the pros and the cons of that particular point that you are raised. Okay, you are looking at the pros and the cons. Then after that, you also give an example of it. I will encourage, because of the time factor, I was giving only 5 minutes. So I will encourage all of you students, just go online, search for keywords that are used in asking examination questions. Explain, discuss, compare, contrast. Look for all these words, look for their meanings, then look at how questions are answered on them. Go through some of these things and master them. And I believe when you do that, it will go a long way to help you in your examination. As you also prepare for the examination, I want you to know that when you get to the examination, after reading through the we were told earlier, read through the questions first. The second time, read through. As you read through the second time, use your pencil and begin to jot down the points. 1, the effect of Galamsey. Then you begin to jot the points that you are supposed to discuss or to explain. You jot the points down. So you choose your questions that you want to answer, 1, 2, 3, 4. After you jot down the points, it helps you. Now, when you start transferring everything to the paper and you are explaining, it makes it easier. But if you don't jot down anything, then you say, I want to answer question 1. Then you start writing on the paper. You could see that when you finish developing a point, you have to come back again.
Hello, Ona, are you there?
The moment you finish discussing it like that, and it will help you. The last thing I want to talk about is for you to know, I believe that your teachers have already taught you, that when it comes to social studies, government, history, and all those other subjects, section B, the essay aspect, explaining and the discussions, they are not to be numbered, but they are to be written in the form of an essay. You give an introduction, After that, then you start to list your items and to explain them. You use words that we call the linking words. Linking words to join your sentences, sorry, your paragraphs or your points that you have raised. So point one, destruction of aquatic lives. So you explain it and everything. Then you come to point to raise the point two, you leave a paragraph, then you come out with words like secondly, or moreover, or furthermore, or additionally. So those are the words you use to link, to join. So you don't number 8.11, 0.22. No, you don't number. But you use these linking words to join the your point. So when you mention the point, you develop it. Then you use the linking word second, third, furthermore, additionally, any of them. Then you develop them. I have a slide that all those of you who are online, maybe I don't know how maybe Mr. Apechi will do it. I may forward the slide so that it will be shared with all of you. It contains all these things that I'm talking about. I'm just trying to pick and jump because of the time. So it will be shared with you so that you can go through all of them. And I believe it will help you. There is also a book on these things coming out. I believe that maybe by the time you go to your WASI, some of those things will be available for you to buy and go through. It will help you with practical examples on how to go about them. I pray that God will help you, will empower you for you to succeed in this examination that you are about to take. Thank you very much. And because of my time, I'll have to end over here. Maybe if any question is asked, we'll add to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for making it very brief for me. God richly bless you, Sir Ona. I know we'll take the slide, we'll make it available on our Facebook page so that students can go there and then get detail, take their time, look at it and have detailed information. Yes, so if we can take one or two questions before we close. You have any question? I would like you to just raise your hand, unmute yourself, and then ask quickly.
Doctor, if you can give me some 2 minutes to do a wrap up on the literature aspect, yeah, I'll be very glad to.
Yes, please. That. Yes, please. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the literature aspect has got 50 questions. That's what students are supposed to answer. We have a part dedicated to prose. That is section A and B. So prose, they are supposed to read African texts and then non-African texts. Then there is a drama, that is African text and then non-African. Then they are supposed to study 10 poems, 5 African, 5 non-African. But the major problem here is that the prescribed book that students are supposed to read is not supplied by the government. The students are supposed to buy themselves. And coupled with this free SHS thing, students are unwilling to buy these books. So one of the major headaches of teachers here is the inability of the students to buy the prescribed books. And one major problem we have here is that these books are changed after every 5 years. Now, you know, the teachers, the complaint here is that these are books that you start reading yourself, then you begin teaching it the first year, the second year, getting to the 4th, 5th year where you have become a master of the book that you know, you don't find much difficulty teaching it. Then the books are changed for you to go in for another one. It's a major problem. Then one of the other problems that we have here is that the students, once they are not ready to buy the books, you know that they wouldn't read because they are students who don't even, the culture of reading is dying out. And so when he does not have the book, he wouldn't read it. And those who have it, you know, the Shakespearean text compared to these ones, compared to the other tests, you know, the Shakespearean tests, the sort of English that is in there is not a modern day English. So sometimes students don't find it interesting reading it at all. So it becomes a problem. They don't read it. And once they don't read it, the next thing to do is to rely on commentaries. And that's where we have another major problem. Commentaries are written by people who think they have read a book and understand. But you know, you should know what the examining body demands from students, so you'll be able to write a commentary that will suit that purpose, so that when students buy them, they will know that they are reading something next to what the examiners demand. Unfortunately, our markets are reading so many books that you, as a teacher of the subject, you are not ready to recommend to these kids. But once they lay hands on them, they think it is a substitute for the test itself. But you see, you need to read the test before you pay attention to commentaries. So the problem we have is that students have poor knowledge of the test. And once you have a poor knowledge of the test, you are not able to appreciate the questions well. You need to understand the story very well to be able to answer questions based on them. You don't answer questions based on the commentaries that you have read. And then their students are relying on these commentaries, so it's becoming a problem.
Okay.
They don't even understand the demands of the question. If the question is asking them, just like our brother Una was trying to tell us, in literature, they'll tell you to add, comment on this, illustrate this. What is the question demanding of you? Our students don't understand this. And that is why it's incumbent on teachers, just like English language, we should give them enough essay questions in the classroom for them to answer for us, so that we see where their weaknesses lie, so that we can help them. We are supposed to also encourage them to read the test.
Okay.
If you don't read the test, it becomes a problem.
Mr. Free.
So, Doctor.
Yes,
sir.
So about enough exercise. I think if you have a class of, SHS, you have huge numbers. One teacher taking a class, maybe not just only one class, is having about 3 or 4 different classes, and each number some 100 plus. Are you sure that teachers will have the time to read, especially essays, and be able to mark it and then get back to the students with it? Or you think that at least they should be provided with, English teachers should be provided with some kind of assistance to help in marking, to enable them give more assignments?
But when it comes to literature, I always want teachers to encourage giving group work to students. Group work, so they will do present. It helps. You see, students, there is this peer-to-peer thing that happens in the classroom. Students with their peers, they can write, their peers to even edit for them. It helps. In fact, as I was doing the English presentation, I told you that essay marking is very difficult. But how do we do it? We segment it. If it's about how to answer questions on literature, how do we introduce it? Help the student to know how to introduce it. Help the student to know how to write their conclusion. If they pick a point to add, to explain what is entailed in there, are they supposed to explain and give examples? Help them to do that in segment, not giving them a full question for them to answer, so that you have a huge number of books on your table that you cannot mark. It is about how you go about it. You plan, you segment it, and then you know how to be delivering it in bits. Okay. By the end of the day, the whole must have been delivered.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I believe when it comes to our concluding aspect, you will wrap up with us with other points. Let me take one more question. Dr. Ban, are you around?
Yes, please, I'm around.
All right, thank you very much. Yasira, you want to ask a question? Quickly go ahead so that I will bring in Dr. Ban.
Okay. Mr. Ona, please, when you are asked to highlight, do you have to list and explain, or just state it? And then with the outline, if I got you clearly, does the outlining also mean stating? That's my question.
Ona, are you around? Ona,
Hello. Yes, I'm around.
please go ahead.
Yeah. Most often, when you are asked to state, stating is more brief than outline. Okay. State. Which specific example can I even bring on board? Highlight
the forces of
and outline. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. So somebody is giving me an example.
Yeah. Dr. Man is helping me.
The forces of conflict.
Okay. Causes of conflict. Yes.
Okay. So what are the sources of conflict? So the student, can somebody give me an answer? State the causes of conflict. Can somebody mention some?
Yes.
Hello, student.
Somebody said chieftaincy dispute.
Excellent. Chieftaincy was dispute. How many words? 2 words. Did you understand? It's just very brief as that. State, give, mention. They are all in the same family. Highlight is mostly about a sentence or 2 things. But state, give, and all those, they are very brief. For instance, give 2 examples of agents of, let's say, the family, the school. These are brief, very, very brief. But when we are coming to outline and highlight, it's more on what? A sentence. And sometimes you can give an example as well.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Hello. Hello, Dr.
Hello.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to say that you couldn't touch? Please kindly give it to us, then we can prepare to wrap up.
Okay. I want to
hello.
Yeah, Ona, I'll come back to you, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, students, they shouldn't panic.
Today, Dr. Barnes' line is really, network is really worrying.
Relax.
Okay. All right, Ona. Ona, go ahead.
I want to make this assumption, okay? I want to make this assumption, and I want the student to pay attention to me very well. Now, there are times that words can be used like outline, but when you look at the marks allocated to it, the mark is huge, right? When you see that, then make sure that you explain further. Okay, for instance, there is this particular year that a question was asked. From my research, I think it will be 2003, no, 2013. It was 2013, and a question was asked: outline 4 ways of sustaining business practices in Ghana. Okay, outline 4 ways of sustaining business practices in Ghana, and the mark allocated to it is 60 marks. 60 marks. It means each of the points is supposed to take 4 points. So point 1 is supposed to take 4 marks. 4 marks. So that 4 marks, it means that it is just like explaining, which is also going with 4 marks, and discussing, which is going with 4 marks. So when you see that, then it is better you explain the points and give an example. But where you see that the marks allocated is just 8, and they are asking you to outline 4, just give a sentence form of answer and just move away. So that is just that little assumption that I want to make.
All right. Any concluding?
Somebody, I saw on the screen a literature question. I don't know whether you have it today.
Okay, let me
Somebody
check.
asked a question on literature. I just saw it on the screen in a flash.
All right, let me quickly check it and then.
Yeah.
Uh,
Talking about literature and books. I just saw it in a flash and then it went off.
It went off. Okay. Difficult for me to find here.
If the person can raise his hand and then
yes,
ask again, I'll be very grateful.
Yes, please. If the person can raise your hand, just go ahead with the question quickly. We want to wrap up.
Yes, Priscilla's hand is up.
Priscilla, please go ahead. Priscilla, go ahead. Okay, so I can see Priscilla's question.
Yes, I said. Can you read the literature books more than the commentary? Exactly what you are supposed to do. In fact, when you read the literature books and you understand it, if I ask you to tell me what you think the book is about, whatever you write also becomes a commentary. So you need not to rely on somebody's commentary to explain the book. Once you understand it, whatever you produce also becomes a commentary. That is why we don't want you to rely on somebody's understanding, but read it and understand it and explain it in your own way.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, Mr. Daniel, any concluding thoughts quickly?
Well, in fact, I must say I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I always use these lines when I go to class. I tell my students, I eat literature, I drink, I sleep literature. I wouldn't want to see literature dying. So I would encourage my students to read, and read. Because I tell them, you are what you read. You are what you read. They should take their lessons seriously, come up with their own timetables, play less, study more, and then they should also look up to the Almighty God. In whatever they do, prayer is very, 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 very important. It's always good to seek the guidance of the Almighty in whatever we do. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. I want to thank all of you. In fact, we will make the video available. Yeah, we'll make 1 minute. We'll make the videos available on our Facebook. You can visit our Facebook, Foundation for Generational Thinkers. The video will be there. You can go through it once again and then put your questions there. Our experts will be ready to answer you anytime. Yes, Ona.
Yeah. One man by name Longfellow once said that the height by which great men reached and kept were not attained by a sudden fright, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling up at night. The difference between the ordinary man and the extraordinary is what they do at night. The day is free for all of us to work, but the difference is in the night. So this is not a time to sleep. This is the time for you to sit up and make the best out of it. Right. Burn the candles, and at the end of the day, your result will put a smile on your face, which will be far more than the night that you invested waking up. But when you don't put in the best now, you will regret the night that you wasted. I wish you the best, and I pray that you all come out with the best of the results. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ba, can you give us your final wish for our students? Today, Dr. Ban's line the network is actually worrying him. So sorry about that. I will also encourage our students to learn. And like Mr. Daniel have said, don't forget that the horse might be prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. You need God to help you in your studies and more especially give you the skills to produce your results during the exam. So I will encourage you not to forget the Almighty God in your studies and then do your best. Don't also be overconfident. Don't be too confident in yourself. Stay alert, stay calm, and then God will help you and see you through. Sometimes we know you know the thing, but how to put it on paper is a challenge. And like Mr. Daniel have said, get closer to your teachers, get closer to let people help you. Don't go into the exams with a mindset that you write and write again. Have just a single mind that you are writing this paper once and for all. God richly bless you. Till we meet again. This is from Forget Foundation for Generational Thinkers. I want you all to switch on your camera so that we can take just a group photograph before we leave. Put on your camera. I want to see your face quickly, and then before you leave. Yes. Yes, I'm waiting for you quickly. Yeah. Whoa, wonderful people. I hope you really enjoyed the presentation. Waiting for the rest quickly. Yeah. I can see people in twos. Well, okay, what are the rest? Yeah. Okay, so our page is Foundation for Generational Thinkers. Visit our Facebook page. The video will be put there, and then you can watch it anytime. And then if you have any question, let us know. God richly bless you. Till we meet again. Maybe we will meet before you write your WASI, but till we meet again. I know you'll be going back to school. I think from tomorrow, some of you will start going back to school. Go, this is the last opportunity for you. Go and do your very best, and God will be with you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Forget ambassadors are young people the Foundation for Generational Thinkers has engaged to act as agents of change in our society. Every year, the Foundation recruits hardworking and very intelligent young people to become ambassadors. They are to propagate the ideals of the Foundation. The Foundation has monthly meetings with them where they discuss what they should do to become responsible and better people in society and influence others.